You've been described as the unacceptable face of capitalism.
I've done nothing wrong.
He didn't do it for the man, didn't do it for the world, didn't do it for the...
This is Nick, he's chronicling my life.
Congratulations on the film. It's so interesting. Was there anything in particular that sparked your interest when you first read the script?
Yeah, I mean, the whole subject matter is something that interested me because, it sort of annoyed me that this stuff wasn't talked about. You know, I always used to wonder why people didn't talk about poverty, where they do talk about lots of other things that are very important. You know, like sexual politics and and race and gender and the environment. These things that we do talk about, and which are all important things to discuss. But the one thing that seems to be missing is people talking about the obscene discrepancy disparity, I should say, between the rich and the poor. And it's almost like, well, no, we talked about that. We don't want to talk about that anymore. And this film does talk about it, but in an original way, I think, in a way that's not obvious and understands the allure of wealth and materialism. But also we can shine a light on the obscenity of people being treated in an exploitative way. This film isn't just an attack on an individual, it's about a whole system, a market that encourages entrepreneurial activity that might have a very shiny outcome for a few people, but has a very dispiriting, depressing, debilitating outcome for millions of people.
What is the average wage in Sri Lanka?
50p a day.
Imagine how many dresses I can get made.
He was a bully.
Not you had to shake my hand.
There was a lot of kind of news around this kind of story in particular a few years back and obviously now into this day. Was there a particular thing when you sat down to write this that kind of sparked some inspiration for you?
No, the starting point was all the kind of publicity around Philip Green and when BHS collapsed. And so that was the kind of starting point, was like that a character like that might be quite an entertaining way of looking at the world of retail fashion. But really, it was like then reading about retail fashion, which I didn't know much about, and it was more just the way the industry works than one element, and just the grotesque kind of inequality really between the owners of brands, high street brands, and the women who make the clothes for high street brands. So in our film, we filmed in Sri Lanka, where the women there that we were filming with were getting paid about £4 a day for making clothes for international brands like H&M or Zara or Next or whatever, or Topshop. And it's less in Bangladesh, and Myanmar's low, Vietnam's low. So it just seemed like that would be just an interesting world to look at.
We've been working on this party for over a year.
He wants it to repair his reputation.
It's all about image. The super yacht, the models. It's all part of a brand.
And you touched on it there, but this film focuses a lot on fast fashion. What would you like audiences to take away from this film once they've kind of left the theatre?
I'd like it to add in some ways incrementally to putting the ethics of the high street, the ethics of retail on the agenda in the same way that the other things I mentioned are talked about. And if it makes a contribution to that, then that's a very good thing. And we're not providing solutions or dictating or trying to suggest how people should behave, but we think at this point people should have a discussion about it and decide. Sometimes people don't have a view on these things because they don't think about it, because they're discouraged from thinking about it, because we see lots of glamorous supermodels wearing these clothes, and that's all we think about. That's all that's in our head, and the fact that we might look good if we buy those clothes. So what I'm hoping is that people will think about it more deeply, and I think people are decent, basically, and if you sort of appeal to their sense of what's right and wrong, then they or say that they might be contributing in some way to the subjugation of a lot of people, then they start to think they think more deeply about it, and that can eventually lead to a sort of behavioural change.
And there's obviously a big inspiration for your main character. He's a big personality that's very recognisable in our own kind of sphere. How did you prepare to kind of walk into this inspirational character?
Well, you look around. People have talked about Philip Green being, and he is the basis for some aspects of the character. So you look around and see this behaviour that is unapologetic. The one thing Philip Green does that many of his contemporaries don't do, or many people who are sort of far more successful heads of huge retail empires, in America, they tend to keep a very low profile because they don't want to shine light on them, because they don't want people to talk about their immense wealth, because they might start asking difficult questions. And Philip Green did actually shine a light on himself, and that was quite a good thing because it helped elevate the subject. And so you can draw a lot from him. He's very entertaining. He's charismatic. He courted publicity, and that's what the character in Greed does. So with that, we borrowed that from him, and it was it's good because it's more interesting than a very low profile person who hides their success under a bushel. That's not dramatically or it's not quite entertaining in a comic way.
Angelina's now a maybe.
Ed Sheeran's a no.
You can get albums. Quick question, are you out of your mind?
And something that I kind of enjoyed a part of the film was the gathering of like the celebrities at the party and the celebrity VT that runs as well. How was it actually gathering everyone to take part?
It was tricky. I mean, obviously we were on a relatively low budget, so we were requiring people to kind of come along and do us a favour. So one theme in the film is that celebrity can be used to sort of make these sort of clothes, cheap dresses, cheap shirts, whatever, to make them look glamorous by using a bit of celebrity to make them seem like there's something to aspire to. So we wanted to have a celebrity kind of strand in the film to be able to play with that. But obviously we were hoping to find celebrities who were kind of willing to sort of donate their time free, because they wanted to, the people sort of send themselves up in a way to look at kind of how celebrity works. So we were really lucky, obviously, that people like Stephen Fry and Fatboy Slim came along, and people did their VT, like Colin and everything did that.